Welcome to the channel. Today we are sharing a unique story about the visionary behind Ancestral Wall in Prampram, Ghana. Discover why he built this cultural landmark and how it is inspiring the next generation by celebrating African heroes and preserving heritage. If you found this journey inspiring, please give us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button to join our community and stay updated on our latest stories about Ghana's culture and history. Let's dive in.
Okay, my name is Jerry Johnson. I've been in Ghana 21 years now. I came here from Los Angeles, where I lived most of my adult life. The reason we are doing an African Ancestral Wall is because when I first came to Ghana, I was living closer to the University of Legon. I'm a Garveyite, basically, which means I feel that African people have to build something on the African continent of consequence if we're going to be of consequence and safe and productive globally. So these kind of things, I wanted to talk to and expound with the college students, but I realized it was probably more effective if I go to the younger students before, they got a lot of things in their mind having to do with the wonderfulness of being outside of Africa, which by the time they're in college is the main thing on their minds, unfortunately. Not all of them, but most of them. So I started with the younger students all around, out here, Prampram, Afinya, Dawinya, all around, going into the schools, from primary even to secondary. And then that got to be a little bit much, so I had the idea that since I had the land, that I would make the African Ancestral Wall and bring the students here on excursion. And that's what I've been doing for about 8 years or so. And that's worked out better for me because it's a little more convenient. And then I have the better attention of the students, when they come on a trip and they're just not in their schools with all the noise. So it's been effective, and of course we're adding on a library and multi-purpose area for more teaching and more activities. So that's pretty much. And as far as choosing Ghana, mainly because I knew it was a place a lot of people, American Africans, would visit. I brought my mother here, my father here to visit, and they liked it. So it kind of was a place that I felt comfortable, and I also felt that I would meet more people, like I'm meeting the ones who are here today with the group you're with, coming from Indiana in this case, but they come from everywhere, the UK and you name it. And so we meet a lot of people, and I think we can have more impact by networking with the people and then having them hopefully begin to focus on the youth too, because what happens now is the youth get socialized by people whose interests are not ours. And we have to turn that around. We have to take control of the socialization process. This is part of an effort to do that. So that's why we have African Ancestral Wall.
So how do you feel living in Ghana? Comparing to where you're from, how do you feel living around this place?
How do I feel living around Ghana?
Yes, please.
Well, I like Ghana. If you live in the U.S. And you're black, you're going to like Africa anyway, because you are among the majority of the people, and it's just a more comfortable existence. That doesn't mean the infrastructure in terms of the roads and a lot of the, just things in place are not as good as we all know. But the living is better because you're away from a hostile environment. Now, a lot of people will say, well, America's not a hostile environment, but they don't know whether it is or it's not until they're out of it for a while. And then they can realize, wow, this is much, much different. So, but for me, it really was more about what it is I can do to kind of move toward that, as I mentioned earlier, that kind of Garveyite orientation or vision, or whatever you want to call it. But as far as living here versus living in the U.S., I like it here. And a lot of people who live in the U.S. who think they couldn't live here, once they come here, they realize they can very easily live here if you can afford it. You know, Ghana is not a cheap place. You know, people think Ghana is low price, but you have to have money to live in Ghana, or you'll be in trouble.
Okay, so what do you have to tell the like anybody trying to visit Ghana or any African country? What would you like to tell them to expect or something you want them to feel?
Well, the main thing I focus on when I talk to people about coming to Africa in general is that you hopefully you are coming with a mission. In other words, you're coming to do something productive and useful. So, like in my case, it was easy. I'm looking at the world. I'm looking at African people in the world and saying, how do we build some kind of power and sovereignty? So for me, the mission was clear. Do what we can do with the youth or whoever to start, strengthening ourselves. Because if you come with no mission and you're just trying to get away from America or something, then a lot of things will frustrate you. Like I said, the infrastructure, the roads, the lights off, all of that can be very frustrating to you if you're not here for a reason. But if you're here for a reason, then these things, even though they're a nuisance, they don't upset you too much. You just, get through them with minimum stress. Yeah.
So with the ancestors, which of them is your favorite? Like which of them do you take more inspiration from?
Which are my favorites? Oh man, I mean, everybody on there is a favorite, or they wouldn't be there. But I guess I, I think what I look at is impact. It's not even so much my favorites; it's who do I see in that impact the children the most. And I would say some of the people on the wall who have the most, that I've seen over the years, with the most impact on the children are people like, people like, for instance, the first person on the wall, at least the main part of the wall, is Eve, of Adam and Eve, right? And so they see this African woman and they're like, well, what's that about? And once you explain it to them, they understand it. So that one has a strong impact. Some other ones like Menes or Narmer, who is where we're showing the actual face of the actual pharaoh, first pharaoh of ancient Egypt. Because most young people, just like when I was growing up, we all watch movies, and everyone in there is European. I know that's all of the pharaohs, everybody, and they're building these pyramids and they're doing all of this stuff. And then you find out, well, wait a minute, that's the first pharaoh, and he looks just like a Ghanaian. So the children, that impacts them. It's even a level of disbelief, like sometimes they're like, I'm not sure this man is telling the truth, because we've been watching these movies since we were babies of all of these white pharaohs and building the pyramids and all of this stuff. So, you're actually having to work against, deep built-in propaganda or someone else trying to socialize your children into believing that they did not do anything, they never had an impact, they didn't have or start civilizations, it was only the other people. So people like that, not so much as just my favorites as much as they seem to really have an impact on the students. Yeah.
So most of the talk is like you are trying to have impact on the kids. Yeah. The focus is basically on the kids, the next generation coming up. What really inspired you to have focus on them? Because like most people around are like everybody's looking up to the whites. I'm trying to be like this person, I'm trying to be like that. But through the conversation, I've realized that you are trying to change the narrative or the perspective about the upcoming generation. So what's inspired all of that?
Well, because a lot of times they're looking up to the whites because that's what they've been taught to do. For just the example I was using there, Imhotep. Imhotep is the world's first multiple genius, world's first medical doctor. Well, if you know that's an African, then why are you looking up to the whites? You look up to yourself but if you don't know that you've done anything, then you don't know your own capacity, you don't know your own power, you don't know your own potential, So you'll always be looking up to someone else, be they European or Chinese or something else. So you have to know that that is in you. Now, unfortunately, we've been through some hard times as a people, and we're not in the position we should be in. But you need to know that you can do it, and it is in you, and you've done it before. It's just you have to get the conditions right to do it again. A lot of our youngsters don't even believe they can do it. You know what I mean? They really think there's almost some innate inability to match other people of the world when they spend a lot of time trying to match you, you know. But if you weren't given the history, then you won't have the confidence. And I think that's the real thing, is confidence. We want our young people to have confidence based on the knowledge of who they are and what they've done. You know, it's like if you're a star athlete and you're, you know, everybody in the world says you're the top athlete in the world. You play football this season, you play basketball that season, you're also this, you're also that. And then you get in a car accident or something, and boom, you know, your head, you injure your head. Then you look in the mirror, you don't recognize yourself, you don't know anything about yourself. And someone says, you've never done anything. And you don't know. So you're like, wow, well, the only person I know that's done someone is the one they put in front of my face in this book or on this TV screen. And then you end up worshiping them. And here you are sitting here, you know, top athlete in the world, thinking that, you know, you can't even walk down the street. So that's how they done. You know, it's like they've taken a part of our minds away from us. So we don't really know what we've done or anything about our potential. And then when we wake up out of the daze, we are worshiping everything they say to worship, following what they say, and we really believe that the other people are superior. And that can only be cured by knowing yourself.
So, do you think we have challenge with our education system when it comes to grooming our generation, or it was something that because it was brought up from our ancestors that it's affecting us, or it's basically dealing with the education system?
Well, the education system is the socialization system. So it's part of it. So you can be socialized in your home by your parents first, you know, how they behave, what are their ethics like, are they confident in themselves, you know, all of these things. But you're also socialized by your school and your church, right? So if I go to a school here at a graduation here in Prampram, and the 2 and 3-year-olds are all singing songs about Jesus, and the Jesus they're singing to, they have a picture of him, he's some white man. They're being socialized into believing that to be close to God is to be close to white, because that's the picture they see. So that's heavy socialization. You can't expect people to undergo that level of socialization from a baby all the way to, you know, adulthood and not have an inferiority complex. Of course you will, because you think these other people are closer to God than you are. Someone tell you, this is God's son. If I point to my boy and say, this is my son, you look at him and you expect him to look like me. All right? This is Jerry's son. You expect him to look like me. You expect when you meet me that I'll be an older version of him. But if he's white and you say that's Jerry's son, what do you think I'm supposed to look like, even if you never met me? And you expect I'm also white. So if I said that's God's son and he's a white man, then, you know, what goes to your mind? You're 3 years old. His father must look like this. Who's his father? God, king of all the other. So then you've lost. And you got a 3-year-old who's already given up. He hasn't given up on life, but he's given up on the idea that he can ever be equal to this guy here, who is the son of the one we're all worshiping. You see, so the whole thing is propaganda. The whole thing is socialization. And if you don't take control of it for yourself and your children, then you'll suffer. And that's where we're suffering now, because we've been socialized to death.
So, what do you have for the generation? What would you tell them? What kind of energy would you try to put into their minds to get back to where they want to?
Just the truth. You know, you don't have to make anything up. All you got to do, all they have to know is the truth about themselves. You don't have to, oh, you did this, oh, you are, you know, you don't have to inflate the story. You just tell the truth about the story. That's all they need to know. But they need to know it early enough to where they can, it also helps them build their confidence. You see, because if you go to Legon and the guy is 21 years old and you tell him these truths, even if he understands them intellectually, he's not able to absorb them emotionally. You understand what I'm saying? They're not enough to make him move. It's just they know something. Wow, that's interesting. They might throw their little information around here or there, but their deep confidence that they would have gained had they known this story when they were two years old, then they would have grown with it. Then they would behave differently. So if you know you're this kind of person, this kind of people, and you grow with it, then if you go somewhere and they're doing galamsey in your area and polluting you won't accept it, because you say that I'm not. That's not the type of person I am to accept this. We don't accept. We're greater than that. We're not, who are you people? Chinese? What? You know, or European? You guys want what? What are you talking about? Are you insane? Because we're the kind of people who don't accept that. But you see, if you're not raised with that, then you grow up feeling like you know, everybody's greater than you. And then even when someone gives you facts, you can't act on them. You can know about them, but you don't have the emotional strength to act on them, social strength to act on them. And that's our problem. Ghanaian adults know all of these things. They don't have the emotional strength to act on it, or the confidence to act on it, because you were never given that confidence, because they told you about, you know, the Romans army or the Greek intellects, or you know, all of that, or in Jesus, whatever, whoever, wherever, Muhammad, whatever. I mean, you know, a Muslim will be angry with you if you say it, but you know, in the mind of a 6-year-old African child, Muhammad is an Arab. I mean, you know, that's just true. That's just fact. Now, as he's older, he's going, oh, no, you know, we don't think, we don't picture and all of that. But the child is 6, and he's already internalized that. You get in trouble for saying it. No, other than if you have time, effort, and energy, put as much of it into the youth as possible, because that's where you have the biggest long-term impact.